I've been mapping my apartment based on emotional territories instead of rooms. Like, the corner by my kitchen window is optimistic morning planning zone, but 3 feet away by the sink is existential dread while doing dishes territory. My couch has at least four different emotional microclimates, depending on which cushion I'm sitting on and what time of day it is.
That's fascinating. So you're like an emotional geographer of your own living space. Do you actually avoid certain areas when you're in the wrong mood for them?
Sometimes, yeah. Last Tuesday, I was feeling particularly fragile, and I knew if I sat in my overthinking everything corner, which is where I usually read, I'd spiral into anxiety about every life choice I've ever made. So I took my book to the gentle self acceptance zone by the bedroom window instead, and actually had a lovely evening.
I love that you've created emotional zoning laws for yourself. I do something kind of similar, but with time instead of space. I've divided my day into what I call energy seasons. Morning me is spring, optimistic and planning oriented. Afternoon me is summer, energetic and social. Evening me is autumn, reflective and cozy. And late night me is winter, either peaceful or completely chaotic, depending on the day.
Seasonal selfhood. That's brilliant. Do you try to match your activities to your energy seasons?
I'm learning to, yeah. Like, I used to try to do creative work in the morning because that's when I'm supposed to be most productive, but morning me is terrible at creativity. She's too focused on making lists and responding to emails and organizing things. But evening me, autumn me, she's when all the interesting ideas happen.
So you've stopped fighting your natural rhythms and started working with them instead. That's so much smarter than trying to force yourself into some generic productivity schedule.
Exactly. And it's made me realize that most productivity advice is written by people whose internal seasons probably run completely differently than mine. Like, all that wake up at 5 a.m. and conquer the world stuff assumes everyone's spring season happens before dawn, which is definitely not true for me.
Right. My morning optimism zone doesn't even activate until I've had coffee and stared out the window for at least 20 minutes. Before that, I'm basically just a grumpy houseplant that happens to own pajamas.
A grumpy houseplant in pajamas. That's exactly what I feel like before 9 a.m. Speaking of houseplants, do yours have different personalities based on where they're positioned in your emotional geography?
Oh my God, yes. My fiddle leaf fig lives in the ambitious but anxious corner, and she's constantly dropping leaves like she's having little nervous breakdowns. But my pothos is in the chill acceptance zone, and she just grows wherever she wants and seems completely unbothered by everything. I'm pretty sure plant placement affects plant personality.
That's either really insightful or we're both projecting human emotions onto vegetation. But either way, I'm here for it. I've been experimenting with what I call intentional inconvenience, deliberately making certain activities slightly more difficult so I have to be really sure I want to do them.
Give me an example. That sounds either brilliant or like a recipe for making your life unnecessarily hard.
Like, I moved my phone charger to the other room so I can't mindlessly scroll in bed. If I want to check social media before sleep, I have to actually get up and walk somewhere, which gives me a moment to ask myself if that's really how I want to spend my energy. Most of the time, the answer is no, so I just read a book instead.
That's genius. You're creating friction between impulse and action. I might try that with my snack cabinet, maybe move the chips to a high shelf so I have to really commit to the decision instead of just automatically reaching for them when I'm bored.
Yes, it's not about depriving yourself. It's about making sure your choices are actual choices instead of just habits running on autopilot. Like, I also keep a notebook by my laptop specifically for writing down what I'm hoping to accomplish before I open it, because I realized I was opening my computer out of restlessness, not because I had any actual purpose.
And now you have to consciously state your intention before you can disappear into the internet void. That's really smart boundary setting with yourself. I do something similar, but with leaving my apartment. I have to answer 3 questions before I go anywhere. Where am I going? Why am I going there? And what version of myself do I want to be while I'm out?
What version of yourself you want to be? That's interesting. How does that change how you move through the world?
It helps me be more intentional about my energy instead of just reacting to whatever happens. Like yesterday, I decided I wanted to be curious and friendly, speaker one, while running errands. So instead of just efficiently checking things off my list, I actually chatted with the barista about the new coffee blend and asked the librarian for book recommendations. I came home feeling connected instead of just accomplished.
So you're essentially method acting your way through daily life. That's actually really sophisticated emotional regulation disguised as a simple question.
I guess so, and it prevents me from accidentally being anxious and rushed, speaker one, or antisocial and judgmental, speaker one, which are my default modes when I'm not paying attention.
God, I know those modes well. I have efficient but dead inside speaker 2 and overly apologetic and people-pleasing speaker 2. Both of them get things done, but leave me feeling empty afterward.
Exactly. It's like we have all these different possible versions of ourselves, and whichever one we feed with attention and intention is the one that gets stronger.
Right. And most of the time, we're not even choosing which version shows up. We're just letting circumstance and mood and habit decide for us. But your 3 questions create a moment of conscious choice about who you want to be.
Which brings me back to my emotional geography thing. Different spaces in my apartment support different versions of myself. Like, I can't be creative and experimental while sitting at my kitchen table because that's practical and organized territory. But put me in my reading nook with good light, and suddenly I'm full of interesting ideas.
So you're not just mapping the emotional energy of spaces, you're mapping which version of yourself thrives in each location. That's like advanced self-knowledge.
I never thought of it that way, but yeah. And it's helped me understand why I used to feel so scattered all the time. I was trying to do creative work in practical spaces or trying to be social and energetic during my natural hermit hours. That makes so much sense. I wonder if that's why some people seem so naturally put together. They figured out how to match their activities to their optimal conditions instead of fighting against their own rhythms. Probably, although I think most people just don't pay enough attention to their own patterns to notice what works and what doesn't. Like, how long did it take you to realize that morning you was terrible at creativity?
Years. I spent so much time being frustrated with myself for not being a morning person in the conventional sense. I thought there was something wrong with me because I couldn't write poetry at 7 a.m. like all the productivity blogs said I should.
But there's nothing wrong with being an evening creative or a midnight thinker or a Tuesday afternoon philosopher. We just live in a culture that's obsessed with optimizing everyone according to the same schedule.
Yes, like the whole world is designed for people whose spring season starts at dawn and whose summer energy lasts until 5 p.m. sharp. But what if you're someone whose winter contemplation is your most productive time, or whose autumn reflection is when you do your best problem solving?
Right. And what if your most social energy happens at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays, but you're stuck in jobs that require you to be equally charming at all times? No wonder everyone's exhausted.
Exactly. We're all trying to be the same person all day, every day, instead of honoring the fact that we're actually multiple people sharing one body and one life.
Multiple people sharing one body. I love that way of thinking about it. It takes so much pressure off. Like, if morning me is terrible at returning phone calls, that's not a character flaw. It's just information about when to schedule conversations for maximum success.
Right. And if evening me is too emotionally raw to make important decisions, I can just wait for afternoon me, who's much more balanced and clear-headed about complicated stuff.
It's like having a whole internal consulting team with different specialties. Morning speaker one is great at planning and organizing. Afternoon speaker one is good at social interactions and getting things done. Evening speaker one is excellent at reflection and creative thinking. Late night speaker one should probably not be trusted with online shopping or emotional text messages. Late night speaker 2 is definitely banned from making any purchases over $20 or sending messages to ex-boyfriends. She has terrible judgment, but excellent music for crying to. See? Even your chaotic late night self has a specialty. Maybe the goal isn't to be one consistent person. Maybe it's to be a well-managed collection of people who know when to tag each other in and out. That's such a healthier way to think about it than trying to eliminate the parts of yourself that don't fit some ideal personality. Like, I used to think my autumn energy introspection was just moodiness that I needed to fix. But it's actually when I process emotions and figure out what I really think about things. Exactly. And my existential dread while doing dishes zone isn't just a problem to solve. It's information that I need to either do dishes when I'm in a different emotional state or find a way to make dishwashing feel less existentially threatening. How did you solve the dishes problem? I started doing them right after dinner when I'm still in satisfied and accomplished mode, instead of waiting until later when I'm in tired and overwhelmed mode. And I put on music that makes me feel like I'm in a movie montage about someone getting their life together. Movie montage dishwashing. That's perfect. You're not just doing chores, you're being the protagonist of your own life improvement story. Right. And now dishes feel like self-care instead of drudgery because I'm doing them as competent adult, speaker 1, instead of why is everything so hard, speaker 1. You've basically hacked your own psychology by paying attention to when and where different versions of yourself show up. That's incredibly sophisticated for something that started with mapping the emotional territories of your apartment. I think that's how most useful self-knowledge develops, though. You start paying attention to one small pattern, and then you notice how it connects to everything else. Like how my intentional inconvenience with the phone charger made me realize I was using technology to avoid feeling bored or lonely, which made me realize I needed to get better at being alone with my thoughts. And now, instead of mindlessly scrolling, you're probably doing things that actually address the boredom or loneliness directly. Exactly. Like, if I'm bored, I'll work on a puzzle or write my journal. If I'm lonely, I'll actually call someone instead of just consuming their social media updates and pretending that counts as connection. Social media as fake connection is such a trap. It's like emotional junk food. It satisfies the craving temporarily, but doesn't actually nourish the need underneath. Yes, and once you start noticing the difference between activities that actually meet your needs versus activities that just distract you from your needs, you can't unsee it. Which brings us back to intentionality, doesn't it? Whether it's choosing which version of yourself to be, or which emotional zone to sit in, or which energy season to honor, it's all about making conscious choices instead of just letting life happen to you. Right. And the funny thing is that being more intentional doesn't make life more rigid. It actually makes it more flexible because you understand your own operating system better. Exactly. Like, I used to think I was just randomly moody, but now I know I'm predictably different depending on where I am and when it is and what I've been doing. That's not moodiness, that's useful data about optimal conditions for different types of tasks and interactions. And I used to think I was inconsistent and unreliable. But now I know I'm just a person with different strengths at different times. As long as I work with my natural rhythms instead of against them, I'm actually very reliable. Here's to emotional geography and energy seasons and intentional inconvenience and all the weird ways we're learning to be friends with ourselves. And to the realization that self-knowledge isn't about finding your true self. It's about understanding all your different selves and creating conditions where each one can contribute their best gifts. Perfect. Now, I need to go sit in my evening reflection zone and think about everything we just figured out. And I need to honor the fact that
autumn me is ready to do some serious journaling about optimal living conditions for different versions of myself.
I've been practicing forgiveness in tiny doses throughout the day, not for big dramatic things, but for microscopic disappointments, like forgiving the barista for spelling my name wrong, forgiving the bus for being 3 minutes late, forgiving my jeans for fitting differently than they did last week. I realized I was carrying around this constant low-level resentment toward reality for not matching my expectations perfectly.
That's actually profound. So you're like doing emotional maintenance in real time instead of waiting for resentments to build up into something bigger.
Exactly. It started because I noticed I was ending every day feeling vaguely angry about a dozen small things that individually didn't matter at all. The woman who cut in line, the email that took too long to send, my coffee getting cold while I was distracted. But collectively, it was making me feel like the universe was personally inconveniencing me.
I love the idea of microscopic forgiveness. I do something kind of similar, but with gratitude instead of forgiveness. I've been thinking objects that work correctly, like, thank you, doorknob, for turning smoothly, or thank you, shoelaces, for staying tied. It sounds insane, but it's made me realize how many things go right every day that I completely take for granted.
Gratitude toward inanimate objects. That's actually beautiful. Do you do it out loud or just mentally?
Usually mentally, but sometimes I'll whisper it if no one's around. Yesterday, I spent like 2 minutes genuinely appreciating my umbrella for keeping me dry, and I swear it made the whole rainy walk feel almost magical instead of just annoying.
There's something about acknowledging the small cooperative moments between you and your environment that changes your whole relationship with daily life. Like, instead of just expecting everything to work, you're noticing when it does and feeling grateful for the collaboration.
Yes, it's like remembering that I'm not separate from all these objects and systems. I'm part of this giant web of things that mostly work together pretty well. Which reminds me, I've also started apologizing to things I break or lose. Not because I think they have feelings, but because it helps me process the guilt and move on instead of carrying it around.
You apologize to broken things? That's either very sweet or evidence that we've both anthropomorphized our entire material world.
Probably both. But like last week, I dropped my favorite mug and it shattered. And instead of just being frustrated, I took a minute to say, I'm sorry, mug. You were a good mug, and I didn't mean to let you fall. It helped me acknowledge the loss without getting stuck in self-blame about being clumsy.
That's actually really healthy grief processing for everyday disappointments. Most people don't think broken mugs deserve grieving, but if it was your favorite mug, then losing it is a real small loss that deserves real small acknowledgement.
Exactly. And it's helped me realize that I experience dozens of tiny losses every day. Parking spots that get taken, plans that get canceled, expectations that don't pan out. But I usually just suppress the disappointment and pretend it doesn't matter.
But it does matter, just on a small scale. And if you don't acknowledge the small disappointments, they accumulate into this general sense that life is always slightly not what you wanted.
Right, so now when my favorite lunch spot is closed unexpectedly, I let myself feel genuinely disappointed for like 30 seconds instead of immediately pivoting to, it's fine, I'll just go somewhere else. The disappointment is a real information about what I was looking forward to.
I love that. Disappointment as real information. I've been applying my microscopic forgiveness practice to disappointments too, like forgiving the lunch spot for being closed, forgiving myself for not checking their hours first, forgiving the situation for not being what I planned.
So you're not trying to eliminate negative feelings, just processing them more efficiently so they don't stick around and fester.
Exactly. It's like emotional composting. Instead of letting small frustrations pile up and create resentment rot, I'm breaking them down immediately so they can become something more useful.
Emotional composting, that's such a perfect metaphor. Speaking of which, I've been treating my energy like a finite resource that I have to budget throughout the day. Not just physical energy, but social energy, decision-making energy, creative energy, all of it.
How do you track that? It sounds complicated, but really useful.
I imagine I start each day with different colored coins. Blue coins for social interactions, green coins for creative work, red coins for administrative tasks, yellow coins for physical activities. Throughout the day, I'm spending these coins, and I try to notice when I'm running low on particular colors so I can adjust accordingly.
That's brilliant. So if you're out of blue coins, you know you need to avoid social situations until you've had time to regenerate some.
Right, and if I spend all my red coins on boring errands in the morning, I know I shouldn't try to tackle my taxes in the afternoon because I won't have the administrative energy left to do it well.
It's like video game resource management, but for your actual life. Do you ever try to earn coins back during the day, or do you just work with whatever you woke up with?
Both, like a good lunch can give me back some yellow coins for physical energy. A nice conversation with a friend I actually enjoy can generate blue coins instead of spending them. But reading a really engaging book usually costs green coins even though it's enjoyable because it's still creative input that my brain has to process.
So you're distinguishing between activities that drain you, even if they're pleasant, and activities that actually restore you. Most people think anything fun automatically gives energy back, but that's not actually true.
Exactly, like going to a party might be fun, but it definitely costs blue coins and sometimes red coins if I have to make small talk and remember people's names. Whereas talking to you right now feels like it's generating coins because this kind of conversation energizes me instead of depleting me.
That makes so much sense. I've been thinking about energy too, but more in terms of what I call emotional weather patterns. Like some days I wake up in a thunderstorm mood where everything feels dramatic and intense. And other days I'm in a gentle drizzle mood where I'm slightly melancholy but in a cozy way.
Do you try to change the weather or do you just dress appropriately for whatever climate you woke up in?
I'm learning to dress appropriately instead of fighting it. Like on thunderstorm days, I'll listen to dramatic music and maybe write in my journal about whatever's feeling intense. On drizzle days, I'll make tea and read poetry and lean into the gentle sadness instead of forcing myself to be sunny.
That's so much more self-compassionate than trying to be the same emotional temperature all the time. What other weather patterns do you have?
Fog days, where everything feels unclear and I can't make decisions about anything. Bright sunny days, where I'm optimistic and social and want to tackle projects. And these weird tornado days, where my emotions are spinning around so fast I can't even tell what I'm feeling.
Tornado days sound intense. What do you do when that weather hits?
I try to find the eye of the storm, some small, calm activity I can focus on while the emotional chaos swirls around me. Usually something repetitive, like organizing a drawer or coloring, or even just counting my breaths. Not to stop the tornado, just to have a safe spot to stand while it passes through.
That's incredibly wise. Most people try to fight emotional tornadoes, but you can't really argue with weather. You can just take shelter and wait for it to move on.
Right. And fighting internal weather usually just makes it last longer and feel more chaotic. Whereas if I just acknowledge, okay, today I'm in a fog bank, so I'll do fog appropriate activities. It usually clears up naturally.
It's like emotional meteorology. You're not controlling the weather, just becoming a really good weather forecaster for your own inner climate so you can plan accordingly.
Exactly. And sometimes I can even predict weather patterns. Like if I've been pushing myself really hard for several days, I know a drizzle day is probably coming where I'll need to be gentle with myself. Or if I've been avoiding dealing with something stressful, a thunderstorm day might be brewing.
So you're learning to read your own atmospheric pressure. That's actually really sophisticated emotional intelligence disguised as a weather metaphor.
I think all good emotional management is really just paying attention to patterns and working with them instead of against them. Like your coin system, you're not trying to have unlimited energy, you're just getting better at understanding and allocating the energy you actually have.
Right, and your microscopic forgiveness practice is about recognizing that small irritations are a natural part of daily life. So you might as well develop efficient ways of processing them instead of pretending they shouldn't exist.
Exactly. And it's all based on this idea that our emotional and energetic responses to life are information, not problems to solve. Like if I'm in tornado weather, that's telling me something about what's going on internally that needs attention.
Yes, and if I'm running low on green creative coins, that's not a personal failure, it's just data about what kind of activities I should choose for the rest of the day.
It's like we're both developing more nuanced relationships with our own internal processes instead of just trying to optimize ourselves into some ideal state all the time.
Right, because the ideal state is probably being really good at navigating all your different states, not trying to eliminate the inconvenient ones.
Like, sunny days are great, but if you only ever had sunny weather, you'd live in a desert. You need the drizzle days for reflection, and the thunderstorm days for emotional release, and even the fog days for rest.
And you need to spend different kinds of energy coins for different kinds of activities. A life where you only spent blue social coins would be exhausting, but a life where you never spent any would be lonely.
So maybe the goal isn't to have perfect days, it's to have well rounded emotional ecosystems where all the different weather patterns and energy expenditures serve some purpose in the larger system.
I love that. Emotional ecosystems. Like your microscopic forgiveness practice is part of your system for maintaining healthy relationships with minor disappointments, and my gratitude toward functioning objects is part of my system for staying connected to the cooperative aspects of daily life.
Right, and your coin budgeting helps you make sustainable choices about how to spend your limited resources, while my weather awareness helps me choose appropriate activities for my current emotional climate.
It's all different ways of being in conversation with yourself instead of just bulldozing through life hoping everything works out.
Exactly. Like most people relate to their emotions and energy levels the way I used to relate to minor disappointments, just pushing through and expecting everything to accommodate their preferences without any negotiation or adjustment.
But actually paying attention to your internal patterns and working with them is so much more sustainable than just trying to power through whatever circumstances you encounter.
And it makes you much better company for yourself, which is important since you're the one person you can never take a break from.
Right. Like, I have to live with my energy patterns 24 hours a day, so I might as well understand them well enough to make good choices about how to spend my various coins.
And I have to experience my own emotional weather constantly. So I might as well become an expert meteorologist for my own inner climate instead of just being surprised by every storm.
Plus, when you understand your own patterns, you can communicate them to other people more clearly. Like, I can tell my friends, I'm low on social coins today, but I still want to hang out. Can we do something quiet? Instead of just being weird and distant and hoping they don't take it personally.
Yes, and I can say I'm in thunderstorm weather today, so I might seem intense, but it's not about you. Instead of just being dramatic and leaving people confused about what they did wrong.
So, all these weird self awareness practices aren't just about managing ourselves better, they're about being clearer and more honest in our relationships, too.
Right, because when you know what's going on with you internally, you can share that information instead of expecting other people to just guess or assume your mood is their fault.
And that makes relationships so much easier and more authentic. Like, instead of performing being okay when you're not, or performing having energy when you don't, you can just be honest about your actual capacity and work from there.
Exactly. Here's to microscopic forgiveness and object gratitude and energy coins and emotional weather systems and all the strange ways we're learning to be better friends to ourselves and clearer communicators with everyone else.
And to the discovery that paying attention to your own patterns isn't self-indulgent. It's actually the foundation for showing up authentically in the world instead of just reacting to everything from a place of confusion about your own needs and limitations.
Perfect. Now I need to check my weather forecast and see if I have any coins left for whatever I'm doing next.
And I should probably practice some microscopic forgiveness for the fact that this conversation is ending, even though I could talk about this stuff for hours.
See, you're already getting good at processing tiny disappointments in real time.